those of you who don't know me, Julia Vigor, the 21-22 NCDV PSP. Really happy to be with you here today talking about Focus on 5. So we today are going to talk about a few different things. First, we're just going to check in to see how you're feeling about Focus on 5 as it stands right now. Then we're going to go over Crescendo Requirements. Crescendo has been one of the stripes that people have struggled with since the pandemic started for completely understandable reasons. So we're going to review everything you need to do and brainstorm together. And we're going to do a sample crescendo activity. We're going to do something you could do in person or on Zoom with flexibility for different age groups, all that kind of stuff. Next thing we're going to talk about is Coda. Coda objectively has been the hardest one to deal with since the pandemic, just because the age group of Coda is an age group that's largely affected by the pandemic. So we are going to talk about ways to do Coda stripe, white stripe, and be safe. We're also going to brainstorm for that one. And then there's going to be a quick question and answer session for anything you might be wondering about. So we're going to get started first with our chapter check-in. I went backwards when I meant to go forwards. Woo, there we go. Okay, so go ahead and put in the chat. Just first, how is your chapter feeling about the Focus on 5 campaign overall? Do you feel like you know everything you need to do? Do you feel like you're in a good place? Do you feel like you're in a not so good place? How many stripes do you have? How are you working towards those? Just give me a quick, how are you feeling? Yeah, that's really exciting. You only have Coda left, then you are in the right place. That's very exciting. And if you don't feel like typing in the chat, feel free to share how you're doing. You can just unmute and talk or raise your hand, whatever you're comfortable with. And if you don't feel like sharing, that is also okay. The nice thing is I know kind of where everybody's at. This is more just so you can encourage each other and that kind of thing. Yeah, Beta Sigma is doing pretty well. Crescendo project was going to do, then got canceled. And that's okay, that totally happens sometimes. In terms of suggesting what to do instead, we can talk about that when we do our brainstorming session in a little bit, because I am sure we can salvage that idea and work on things together. Planning and completing events, struggling to execute, change of personnel, that is totally fair. I hope that this session helps you figure out ways to navigate your new personnel and execute those events. And remember too, it is completely okay if you do not earn all 5 stripes or go above and beyond. We always hope to see chapters do that, but it is also okay if life happens, circumstances change. Focus on 5 women in music is flooring you. I like that wording. We can talk about that one too at the end, just in our general Q&A. We can talk about Blue Stripe. And then doing perfect. That's really exciting. Seems like, oh, I see. It's perfect about the ideas. Yeah, everyone seems to be in a pretty good place. That's very exciting. So then how are you feeling specifically about Crescendo? Have you finished it? Are you still working? Some people have shared already how they feel about that one, but where is your chapter on the green stripes specifically? And if you'd like, you can go ahead and share how you're feeling about the white stripe and Coda specifically as well in that check-in. Have you earned those too? Are you working towards it? Do you need help? And any of those stages are completely acceptable. All right, and that's okay if no one wants to share. That's fine. We talked a little bit about that kind of stuff. So moving forward, let's talk about the Crescendo program. So I don't know why it does that. Every time I hit forward, it goes backwards. Canva is so mean to me. Anyways, talking about Crescendo, it's first important to understand what is the Crescendo program and why do we do it. So the Crescendo program was created to address the specific purpose of promoting the existence and welfare of the collegiate bands, building that respect and appreciation for all things band and the achievements among the listening public everywhere. So the primary purpose is to eventually build up the amount of people that join collegiate bands by encouraging younger musicians of any age to continue on in music as they are transitioning towards college or even towards middle school and high school. It's all about encouraging kids to keep that love of instrumental music in their life, because it's really crazy to think about, but that room full of sixth graders you're working with, or that room full of freshmen in high school, those could be potential sisters. Those could be people that join your chapter even. And that's really cool to think about. So moving forward, now that we kind of understand the point of the Crescendo program, it's important to talk about the requirements. So there are a lot, and they can be found in the National Programs Guide if you have any questions. But first, you have to host an event for the youth of your community. That's the whole point of Crescendo, working with kids specifically. To earn that stripe, you have to upload a picture of your event, or if you can't take a picture for privacy reasons, the teacher, director, instructor, whoever's there needs to fill out the Crescendo program record form. That's just a form verifying that you had the event, explaining how it went, who was there, all that. That can be found in the National Programs Guide too. So each Crescendo event has to focus on playing and appreciating instrumental music. A big thing to take away is that the majority of people involved have to be playing or listening to instrumental music. That is something that has been a bit of a struggle with the pandemic, and that is completely understandable, but know that the event will only count if that requirement is there. Generally speaking, the listening to instrumental music part might refer to the kids more so than sisters, but if it needs to be a situation where sisters are also primarily listening, that is okay. Then the last point to think about is that 2/3 of your members have to participate in the event. So if you have an event and there's only 2 sisters from your chapter of 10, that would not count. If you have half your chapter there, that's close, but it doesn't count still. And 2/3, it's not a strict like, oh, if you have 17 people, you must have this set amount of people. It's more so, if I see a picture of your event, can I tell that the majority of your sisters work towards this and were involved? And that is specifically referring to active members. Are there any questions about Crescendo requirements, things you need to do to earn the stripe? Scrolling, cool. You'll see too later on that Crescendo and Coda have almost identical requirements, which is really helpful for you as you plan. So a couple of resources for you to think about, and they'll also be on our district resources website posted with this slideshow, is first the National Programs Guide. So that breaks down every single Focus on 5 stripe for you, breaks down requirements for membership, breaks down letters you can send to teachers, to community center directors, things like that. So that is like your ultimate, this is where I find all of the answers resource. Next resource for you is the Girl Scout Council Finder. If you want to work with a Girl Scout troop, you can use that website to look up troops in your area and the names of the heads of those troops so you can reach out. Next is the Boy Scout Council Finder, exact same thing, but for Boy Scouts. They're both very easy to use, very easy to navigate on their sites. The last one is the YMCA Finder. If you want to work with a community center, that is totally acceptable for Coda and Crescendo. So if you want to work with a Y, you want to work like play at a hospital, work for a park, that kind of thing, use those resources in your community. Moving on, here's a couple other tips for you for Crescendo. Try to get at least 3 different dates that you can propose for your event. This is especially important when you're talking to directors, instructors, teachers, all of those things. If you go in saying like, we can only do this day at this time, it's very likely that something else might already be planned within that time frame. If you go in with, these are the hours we're generally available, we can do these 3 days coming up soon when any of these work. That's a much better foot to step forward with. It's also important to remember for Crescendo and Coda, you most likely will have to make the sacrifice of doing something during your school day, because that's when schools are in session, that's when the community centers have events. It's a lot more difficult to execute one of these events at night. Don't get me wrong, it is possible. Lots of chapters do that, lots of chapters thrive, but you're most likely going to have a better time booking something during the day. So keep that in mind. If you're reaching out with a school, reach out early. Some schools require background checks, which cost money, first of all. So if that's the road you want to take, you have to think about that. If it's not, that's okay. But those also take months or weeks to process. So think about that when you're reaching out to schools. Ask them, do you require background checks? A lot of schools do not. My school that I work at does not. However, the school down the road does. And that can make a difference in how you execute your Crescendo project. And then lastly, ask in advance if any kids that are going need accommodations. You want to make sure that your event is accessible to everyone. The last thing you want is to go in and say, we're going to make instruments today, and then find out that someone has some sort of physical limitation where they are unable to build the instrument and they can't participate in the way you want. Everyone wants, especially for kids, you want your kids to feel successful and involved. And if you create that barrier without meaning to, your event will be as successful as you want. So make sure to ask those kinds of questions. So now let's do some brainstorming together. I want to talk about different things you can do or what you've done in the past for Crescendo. I'm going to exit out of this PowerPoint and type up your ideas, and then we can all have those forever and ever. So go ahead, unmute, raise your hand, put some ideas in the chat, whatever works for you. Share what works with your chapter or what you want to try. Brendan, I see your hand. Go ahead. What are you thinking?
So back when I was active with the Ymca chapter, which very sad to not see any of them here today, but what we would do for Crescendo was we would reach out to the local high school and then give little workshops for them for specific instruments they would play, whether it be like trumpet, tuba, clarinet, because those were like the instruments that we had the most of in our group. But more or less just talking to these high schoolers and leveling with them, asking how they're doing while also mentoring them. And we would do that every other week for the spring semester.
Sounds good. So working closely with a high school in the spring semester. Great idea. That's really good too, because then their marching band season is over if they do marching band. And they're not as like overwhelmed with as much on their plate. Michael, what was your thought?
So at Purdue, we do something called Partners in Music. And so every year we will find like a high school within the surrounding area, and we will go to one of their basketball games. And so we'll have like a quick little rehearsal with both of our directors, and then we'll go to their basketball game and we'll kind of play music with them. We'll play all of their school songs, and then we'll play some of our like favorite tunes. And so it's a lot of fun because it's like this itty bitty high school with probably like 20 or 30 sisters showing up to play at their basketball game. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that does sound like a lot of fun. It's going to take me a second. Working on an iPad and typing is not necessarily the way. Can you remind me the name of the event you were doing again?
We call it Partners in Music.
I love it. Partners in Music.
And so we do that with our chapter, but then also some of like the ensembles will do that in the fall too. So it's not just the chapter, it's different ensembles at Purdue.
That's really awesome. And it's great for those young kids to have that model collegiate sound and get them excited for the ones who are going into music school. That's great. Zeta Alpha people, what is your idea?
Well, around here, at least in Illinois, we had really strict regulations on what we could do for Crescendo this year. So we did a virtual event where I had everyone meet like on the quad, and we did like an instrument petting zoo where we just introduced an instrument, talked a little bit about it, and then I found like some Disney music that we could play for students. We made like a whole video, and then we put it on YouTube and sent it out to a whole bunch of schools in the area that I had contacted, which was really nice because usually we don't get outreach to that many kids. So that was really cool. I don't really know what we've done in the past. I remember my freshman year, we did like a high school pep band thing. And that's kind of all pre-COVID that I can remember. So
yeah, and what's really nice about virtual is that you do have that bigger audience, that bigger outreach. And that's something that a lot of people don't think about, but it is a perk and it's something that we've learned works. So know that at least for the near future, Crescendo and Coda can be done virtually successfully, which is very exciting. Any other thoughts, any ideas your chapters have done? I'll go ahead and add one. I know my chapter a few years ago, what was cool was we collaborated with the Chi chapter because both of our schools are about 15 minutes away from each other. We worked with a Girl Scout troop. So they educated them on the Ohio State Marching Band and instruments and all of that. And we educated them on instrumental music and made goodie bags. And it was a lot of fun. Do we have any other ideas for things you can do virtually with kids? There's lots of things you can do on Zoom. Has anyone ever made a video or worked with a group just on Zoom? Olivia, what has Ro done or what are you thinking?
I know last year for Row we had like made it was for a Girl Scout troop, but we had made like a specific, like it was a little bit about like different music around the world. There was one about it was like a multi-step, like, sorry, I don't remember all the details, but it was a like subject overview of like certain parts about music, like music appreciation, and we did like a little like rhythm and beat workshop, and we also did like a specific time, I think it was, sorry.
That's okay. It sounds like a lot of fun.
It was really cool because you also got, it wasn't just like one specific thing, it was like encompassing of like, here are all the ways you can learn to appreciate music, whether it's by playing or listening or widening like your music that you listen to. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that does sound cool. For all of y'all in this chat, I apologize with how much of a struggle bus this is. Canva and iPad are not besties. Canva and computer are besties, but you know, we do what we can. I will fix that later. Any other thoughts? Any other things? I really like how a lot of these are educational. It's not just we are going and playing a concert, which that is great and that is wonderful and that counts. But I like how these are a lot outside the box. I'll fix that later. I like all the different ideas. Brendan, you had your hand up. What is your idea?
So this is actually pulling more from like what I'm doing currently for one of my master's classes, but we're going to be working with a local Latino Center for Wellness and Education for my class. And what we're working on mostly is mindfulness for like 6 to 15-year-olds. And what we're trying to teach them is not to be violent with the way they act, but if they are feeling a certain way, they can channel it through. The purpose of what we're doing it for is like, you know, you can do exercise, but I think this can be applicable in that you can create music or you can listen to music, something that will help you channel your emotions a little bit better.
Oh, absolutely. That's really nice because music and mindfulness go hand in hand. And as musicians, I feel like we struggle especially with being mindful and keeping positive mental health and taking care of ourselves. So I feel like instilling in kids that it's okay if you're overwhelmed, here's how we can work on that together. Like that's huge and that's exciting. These are all really good ideas. Are there any other thoughts? It's okay if not. Cool. So all of these ideas will be shared later. I'll throw a few more on post-it notes for you to see. I'll also make it look pretty because right now it's not so pretty, which is okay. But if you are stumped on ideas, you can always look at the National Programs Guide. There are lists and lists and lists of things for you to look at and apply and take and tweak and just work with. So yeah, those are all awesome ideas. Moving on, what I would like to do is provide a sample crescendo activity for you. So this activity is something I do in my music class with my elementary schoolers. It's called the Found Sound game. It is something you can do on Zoom or in person, so it works either way. This game would be part of a larger presentation. But this is meant to introduce kids to band instruments in a way that makes sense. This is specifically referring to younger elementary students, but you can tweak it. So teaching the difference between pitched and unpitched instruments. So what I need everyone in this call to do right now is go find something in your house or your room or your dorm. I don't care what it is, find it and show me. It can be anything. And for the record, this is why I had the drumsticks earlier. Sweet, I see it, nice, okay. A pancake mix, that is so, okay, go off, I like it. A fork. This is giving like Little Mermaid right now, so hard. I love it. Cool, I love it. So we have found our sounds. I am going to use a practice pad and drumsticks just because music teacher generally have instruments 2 inches away from me at all times. So what we are gonna do is play some music together. There's probably going to be lag because this is on Zoom, and that's okay. You can do this as a video or in person, but we're going to talk about steady beat. So for younger kids, that is a great thing to do because it gets their hands involved, and they're usually working on steady beat anyways. So what I want you to do, and I'm going to mute myself, is just give me a steady beat, set your own tempo. With actual kids, you would lead them through this, but because of Zoom and technology, just give me a steady beat with your found sound. Cool, so you kind of know how that sounds now. So what we're gonna do is talk about the difference between pitched and unpitched instruments. And I promise this all connects back to band. But if I had to talk about pitch versus no pitch, could someone raise their hand on Zoom or put in the chat, what is the difference, do you think, between a pitched sound and a sound with no pitch? This is something that young kids work with in music class, so they could probably give you an answer. And if not, you can explain. It's one of those things where it's like, I think about it all the time, but the second I have to explain it, it gets hard, right? Okay, so I'll give you what my definition would be. So to me, an unpitched instrument is any pitch or words. An unpitched sound is any instrument where if I hit it, there's no definite specific sound that I can sing. So if I hit the side of this drum, I can't sing that. I can't sing that. If you asked me to sing that, I would say, you're crazy, I can't do that. Whereas a pitch instrument is something that I can sing. So if I had something like this recorder here, I could sing back. Does anyone think they have a pitched instrument right now, or do we think we're all working with unpitched? I'm gonna guess unpitched because that's what you can find in your house when I gave you 10 seconds. Cool. So talking about the difference between unpitched and pitched instruments helps kids get ready to start understanding band instruments. And if you let them play those instruments, they can understand concrete, like, okay, I can keep a steady beat. So what I want to do is I want to do a steady beat with your found sound to a song. If you cannot hear this song, let me know. This is going to set us up for band music. I'm going to play We Don't Talk About Bruno from Encanto because it's a bop and everyone knows it. So give me a sec. And if you can't hear it, let me know. Give me thumbs up if you can hear it. No. Oh, okay. Give me a sec. I'll try my other device. So that is how technology crumbles sometimes. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a sec. But if you were doing this in person, it'd be really easy to pull up a song. And if you were doing this as a pre-recorded video, it'd be really easy. One sec. Okay, let me know if you can hear this one. Cool, so give me a steady beat with your found sound. Make your own rhythm up. Just jam out with me for a sec. I realize that by muting you can't hear. Sorry, I will not play my instrument. You go ahead. I'll be quiet. So you get the gist. Now what I want you to do, and this is harder, go try and find an instrument with a pitch. Try and find a pitched instrument. That's harder. Misty has a whole ukulele 30 feet away from her. That's like
I didn't even have to get up. I haven't touched this in like a very long time though.
I feel a little bummed out now. I have a whole recorder. Oh. If you don't have a pitched instrument, that is okay. Like water bottles can count, with like metal water bottles, things like that. I see people thinking that's great. So if I was doing this with kids, I would again break down what is pitched versus unpitched sound. So would Misty's ukulele be pitched or unpitched? Be pitched, yeah. Would my recorder be pitched or unpitched? Gotta pitch. Would this Apple Watch, don't smash your Apple Watch, but would this Apple Watch be pitched or unpitched? It's off, so it'd be unpitched, but there might be pitches with it. So that one can be tricky. But thinking about this is just building kids to get ready to understand band instruments. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do the exact same thing with our found sound, steady beat, but this time we're gonna do it to a song with band instruments in it. We're gonna do this to Promenade by Mussorgsky, if you know that one, because it's got a nice, easy to follow steady beat. So go ahead, same thing, make any sounds, rhythms. If you were a kid, this is just you having fun, just listening. So even if you don't follow along, it's just something to listen to get band instruments in your ear. So then after you do that, what you can do is then take out the band instruments. So if you play percussion, you can pull out your snare drum and say, is this a pitched instrument or an unpitched instrument? Is snare drum pitched or unpitched? And that's actually kind of a tricky one because it can be pitched, but generally speaking, we consider that unpitched. Then you could pull out your trumpet and say, is trumpet pitched or unpitched? I would call that one a pitched instrument, that kind of stuff. So then you can play your instruments for the kids, have them do a steady beat to it. So they're practicing doing something with their hands. They're hearing those instruments and can think, okay, I remember that the trombone is a pitched instrument. It's not just, they played their instruments for me and the trombone sounds like a low sound. Does that make sense? So that's just like one example of a crescendo activity you can do that would count for your green stripe, and that builds it in a way that kids can use, and you're not just walking in and playing, which again is fine, but it's always fun to see what you can do outside the box. Are there any questions about anything crescendo before we move on to coda? Cool. So moving on, coda is very similar. The only thing that changes really is the age group, and that can make it, whoa, we jumped. That can make it a little bit hard with the pandemic, but we're going to talk about ways to navigate that. So the purpose of coda is to promote the existence and welfare of the collegiate bands and to create a respect for band activities. So we are just spreading the news about band pretty much. We're just saying, hey, band is awesome, come listen to us. This program is also really important because it expresses and embodies 2 of the 8, the 5th and the 6th, which are generosity of mind, heart, and hand, and building the appreciation of music within your community. And focus of this program is to keep music in your life towards the concluding passage of your life, hence why it's called Coda. Interesting stuff. The names, if you think about it, all the names have a purpose. It's not just like we call it Coda because Coda sounds cool. It's like, no, we call it Coda because it's symbolic of end of life. Crazy. Requirements for Coda, very similar. You got to host an event for the older members of your community. To earn the stripe, you upload pictures of your event, or you upload the Coda program record form to the Focus on 5 Facebook group. Then each event focuses on playing and appreciating instrumental music specifically. Majority of the participants must be playing or listening to instrumental music. Then 2/3 of your active membership, again, needs to participate in this event. Are there any questions about the Coda requirements? Cool. So this one can be virtual or in person too. You can pre-record things, you can do things on Zoom, all of that. Couple resources for you. Once again, the National Programs Guide. If you're looking for music to perform, I recommend IMSLP, which is just a free public domain music database. You can look up any song that's in the public domain, get sheet music for it to perform. I also recommend the Real Book website. If you want to get jazz music for like $2 or some charts are free, you can go on that website, get the music, and then go perform it. Because sometimes it can be hard to find chamber music, but just reading off a jazz sheet, for those of you who do jazz, totally accessible, totally doable. Then once again, Ymca Finder, because you don't always have to work with an assisted living center. There's other places to branch out. You could work at a church, you could work at a hospital. YMCA, service is service. We don't care where it happens, it's just service. That's all that really matters. You're just giving your best, you're relating to the Tau Beta Sigma mission, all that. So a couple tips for Coda. Do not expect the Living Center to provide you with any supplies unless they state it. Something I'll see is sometimes chapters don't bring music stands, but there's usually not the expectation that they'll provide music stands. So if you need any sort of supplies, expect to bring those on your own. If you're going to do crafts, expect to bring those craft supplies on your own. You can always ask ahead of time, but just assume that you are providing the resources for those folks. Then be aware of noise levels of your performances or even your speaking voice. So sometimes you'll have folks that are hard of hearing. So sometimes you need to speak a little louder. And sometimes you have the opposite, where you have folks who have really sensitive hearing and you have to be a little quieter. And asking ahead of time about those kinds of things can be helpful to make sure you're being respectful of everyone and you're also performing in a way that people can enjoy. Because it's one thing if they can't hear you and they're pretending to enjoy it versus if they can actually hear and enjoy that experience. Then make sure you identify visiting hours that don't conflict with other events if you're going to a facility, or during quiet hours. So you don't want to visit during quiet hours and start playing instruments and then disrupt the routine. That's it's well-intentioned, but that can be tricky. So just make sure you're going at an ideal time. And then just, again, ask in advance if anyone needs accommodations. You want to make sure everyone can enjoy your event to the best of their ability and make sure that everyone can work together and have fun. This is especially important for Coda because your demographic for Coda are people who are going to need more accommodations than kids, generally speaking. So you want to make sure that you're doing something that includes everybody. So moving on, we're going to brainstorm again, and bear with me on iPad-didness, but go ahead and share, what has your chapter done in the past for Coda that's worked for you? How have you earned your white stripe? Or what are some ideas you think you can have and do?
I have been a thing that Alpha Z did.
Yeah, what did Alpha Z do?
So last year I was our Focus on 5 liaison, and we had sisters submit videos of them playing a song on their instrument. They could do it like in small groups if they wanted to, or individually. And then this was during Christmas time, so that it was like holiday music. And we mashed that all together and then just sent it to one of our local nursing homes to listen to that way. Yeah,
that's a great thing to think about, to keep them safe too, especially now. A lot of nursing homes either will not let you in or have a lot of regulations, and you want to make sure people are safe. So to just stay safe, you can do things virtually and make sure people are feeling protected but can still enjoy music. I know a lot of chapters that have done playing videos and found success with that. Other thoughts on things you can do? I'll throw one in the meantime. Something you can do is physical activities with those folks. A lot of folks at that age need things to keep them moving. And you can do things like music therapy kind of things where you provide them with like shakers or small toys like drums, and they can play along with you and get their motor skills moving a little bit, their muscles. Zeta Alpha people, what is your thought?
We always usually go to one of the like assisted living retirement homes around here. And last year we actually played outside, so we did a little concert for them. They came inside outside. It was a nice day.
Yeah.
You can't really do it in the rain, but that's what you have to do because of COVID.
Yeah, that's another great workaround, going outside and working with people in that way. Elizabeth, I see your hand is up. What do you think?
Yeah, this was before COVID, so you might have to like find unique ways to do this depending on what kind of facility you're going into. But we went through the Wood County, which is where our school is, Wood County Committee of Aging, and we played a game of musical bingo with them, and we chose songs from like the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and we would play the song. And we would have our sisters sit in groups with the elderly folks and just like talk about the music they enjoyed, and they would guess the songs and put it on their bingo sheet, and we had prizes for them. So that way you don't have to like play instruments with them depending on what kind of the facility, what their needs are and things like that. Like instruments aren't needed and you can be COVID safe.
Yeah, that's a great idea too, because that's something that you could pre-record potentially and get out to multiple communities. Like the nice thing about, like I said earlier, about virtual stuff is it doesn't have to go to just one set person or one set group. You can spread that service and spread that music appreciation to other people. Other thoughts on Coda? I feel like especially with Coda, out of all of the stripes, I feel like that's the one where people kind of find a way and stick to it. So I'd love to think a little more outside the box on things you can do. Something I think of is you could host a dance. You could do that inside or outside. You could, if you have enough sisters in your jazz band, you could have your jazz band go and you could organize an event where you go play for them and they get to have like that kind of activity and listen to music they know. So that's one thought. I also feel like a lot of people go around Christmas time and do their Coda. What has any chapter done that in the past where you've gone and played carols or gone visit the Zeta Alpha people? Say yes. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and add that one there too. Caroling is a very good one. And that's nice too because they can sing along, because most people know a lot of holiday carols. I'm going to specify caroling with instruments. Caroling with singing is great too, but in order for that to count as a Coda project, you have to have instruments involved. So you should probably be playing with your instruments as opposed to just singing, even though the voice is an instrument, but it's not a band instrument usually. Sometimes people sing with bands. That's why I say usually. Any other thoughts? You got a lot of good ideas here. I'll add one more too, recording. Just recording videos about different music instruments and saying this is what they sound like. I saw one chapter one time did something really cool. I think from the Southeast District, they did a storybook. This counted for Crescendo, but I could see it working for Coda too. They did a story and they played instruments along to the story and sent it out. It was very cool. Cool, so moving on. Here's a couple frequently asked questions about Coda and Crescendo. And then if you have any questions about anything Focus on 5, love to hear them. First question being, can we hold virtual Crescendo Coda event? Yes, absolutely. So especially now with the world being so questionable at all times, the safety of everyone takes priority, yourself and your people you're serving. So it's totally fine to do things on Zoom, pre-record materials, go outside, do whatever you need to do. Next question being, when must events be completed to earn the credit for the stripe? So this year, and every year it's June 1st, but this year it's June 1st, 2022. You have to submit to the Facebook group by that day. So that's not, we host the event by that day. That's, we have the pictures or forms uploaded by that day. You can still do service events over the summer, of course, but if you want the credit, like that's what you're looking for, that's when that needs to be done. The third question is, do we have to go to a school or a nursing home? Because a lot of people will do just those two, which is totally fine. But you do not, there's other places you can go. You can do scouts, you can do YMCA, churches, community centers, recreation centers, all of that. Sometimes those groups don't get as much love-in as other groups do. So it's always cool to branch out and see what's in your area, because there's usually more than you think. Then the last question is, can you hold Crescendo and Coda events at the same time? Like if I wanted to invite all age groups, can we do that? So the answer to that is that it's possible, but it's harder to achieve. So what'll happen sometimes is the chapter will do that, and then we'll say, actually, we're just going to count that for Crescendo because these activities were more so catered to younger folks. So if you want to get both your stripes in one day or have like a big event to serve everyone, it's best to do 2 separate events in one day or 2 separate activity blocks within a day. And if you want to take that path of knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone, serving your community in that way, double check before you get started with me and Leslie, our national VPSP, to make sure that that's going to work out. Because the last thing I want is for a chapter to plan something and then us to say, well, actually, that's not going to count. Even though it's really cool, we just can't count that. So are there any other questions? Any other thoughts on anything focused on 5? Doesn't have to be green and white stripe. I know Netta had a question about the blue stripe. I'd love to hear more about that if you want to talk about blue stripes still. Yeah, your hand is up. I see it.
Yes, I have a question. Sorry, we're at a game right now, so I'm sneaking
Yeah,
off.
that's dedicated.
We have women in music. So I don't really have a question. It's just like it's stressful trying to coordinate like who, like, because Dr. Stevenson wants to vet everybody. So it's kind of difficult trying to pick someone, and I don't know if she knows that person and things like that. And I don't want to choose her because she was a speaker on women in music for another chapter last year. So do you have like any recommendations on like when picking someone?
Yes, so that's a really good question. And it's really nice to hear that y'all have a vetting process for your speakers, but I totally get why that makes things more difficult. That can be hard. So my first advice is to find someone within your university, if you have any other influential women in music, because that's someone that could easily be vetted. Say, we see this person all the time. And women in music is really, it's not just about your chapter learning, it's about your community learning. So if you invite other people to it, make it a community event, that has more merit too. Then besides that, I encourage asking local school teachers, like local band directors, to come talk, because that's also another person that could get vetted pretty easily because that's a school teacher. And generally speaking, most music professors are aware of school teachers because they'll come visit and talk to those schools regularly, or they'll be in touch with them for like honor bands, solo and ensemble, if your state does that kind of stuff. And yours does because we're in the same state. But so that would be my next suggestion. After that, I would just ask who like they want to see, like who specifically, what kind of topics do they want to learn about? Because if you're having a hard time vetting someone, just find out who they're looking for and then go from there, as opposed to bringing ideas to them. Get ideas first, like learn from them. Then yeah, Brendan, that's a great thought. Getting alumni from your chapter. So once you have people who have graduated from the chapter, who are out in the music career, talking to them about what it's been like what's it like as a first-year teacher? What's it like in the music tech industry? That's a really valuable resource and relevant to a lot of people. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. I had to turn my mic off because we're walking into the stadium. So the drum line is doing that cadence.
That is so cool. I love your dedication. Thank you. Are there any other questions about anything focused on 5, like black stripe, blue stripe, white, green, district lyre piece? Yeah, that's great. Having a grad student who worked as a teacher come in, like that's great because you get the perspective of grad school, perspective of teaching, perspective of just being an adult in the real world, like fully doing it. So that's really awesome. Cool. So if there's no other questions, I want you all to know that you've got this. You're doing great things for Focus on 5. I'm very happy with how every chapter is doing, and I'm super excited to see the things that you do. I hope that this presentation kind of helped you figure out ideas for Crescendo and Coda, helped you think about what you can do, review those requirements, have some resources. So if there's nothing else, thanks so much for talking with me today.